Hey, what's up everybody? This is KG from Draw 7. In this video, I'm going to talk about my Orlando Regionals run this past weekend. As you know, the Orlando's Regionals for Pokemon TCG, VGC, and Pogo happened this past weekend. I went, of course, with a couple of friends, and a lot of people from the Valley actually went, and from Texas. So that's good representation for Texas and South Texas. So I'm here to give you a tournament report. And without further ado, here's the list I ran at the Orlando Regionals. The list is very similar to Tord's list, only about 3 changes, and you can see those 3 changes below. We have the Miss Energy, the TM Devolution, and the Switch. What I took out for those 3 cards, I took out one Buddy Poffin, I took out the Jirachi. I felt that there wasn't going to be a whole lot of Lost Box, and there was. And if there was, I was okay with that matchup. Particularly, I think I was just going to run to 1. And then, of course, I took out one Professor Turo. And I have no regrets on those changes. Probably the one thing that I could take back is probably the TM Devolution, because I feel like TM Devolution goes hand in hand with Eerie. Erie's the disruptor card that lets you see your opponent's hand and you choose 2 item cards, which particularly you want to target the rare candies for the Zard engine, the Chimpow engine for Baxcalibur. So I kind of feel like that Eerie TM Devo combo is much more powerful than just having one or the other. Of course, that's in hindsight, but the TM Devolution did serve its purpose for 1 or 2 games, but for the most part, most of my matches, at least 3 of them out of the 9 rounds, were more the Roaring Moon box of Ancient Box. Sorry, Ancient Box with Roaring Moon EX. So really, the TM Devo didn't really do much for me. So if I could take that back, I'd probably take that out and put the Buddy Poppin'. The Miss Energy was a good call on my end. I did run into some Roaring Moon, and also Miss Energy and talking with Billy Joel also helps stop the TM Devo being done to you. So it's really good on the Pidgeot or Zard, especially if you wear candy. So if you put the Miss Energy, pretty much they're protected from TM Devo and the Frenzy Gouging from the Roaring Moon. So I felt really good about putting the Miss Energy. And then the Switch was just another out just in case I ran into a Star control deck, which I did, by the way. So in my tournament run, I'll talk about that. But overall, the trip is great. I want to say going there, I was a little under the weather. I think it was just the allergies, and I was telling some of the guys, including Puff, I was, the whole airplane ear. I heard about it, never experienced it, but that just happens when you're getting older. But I did experience very heavy airplane ear, but once, after you yawn or whatnot, it just went away. But I was feeling a little under the weather, and I know it was just the allergy. So once I took some NyQuil, I was good to go. And yeah, so pretty much better off. I will say, however, that after the weekend, that Saturday night, I will tell you that if you ever go to Orlando, Florida ever again, or in that area, make sure, I kept this, make sure you get, you eat at the pizzeria, okay? This little combo right here, the biggest pizza in Central Florida, they weren't joking about that. So for like $80, you get a 30-inch monster cheese pizza. Of course, they scalp you because you have to pay for the pepperoni and all that. 20 buffalo wings, large french fries, and garlic knots. So that's the pizzeria, not the one in South Texas. I know we have the pizzeria, the one with the umbrella incorporation tag. No. The pizzeria over there was really lit. So I want to shout out to Billy and Joel and myself for getting that combo after the tournament. The pizza honestly reminds me a lot of the old New York 3-cheese pizza from Pizza Hut. So if you remember back in the day with Pizza Hut, I think when they changed their bread, now they added the garlic and then the cheese itself, this pizza reminded me of the pizza back then when I was a kid. So it was just good pizza, and no regrets over that. So it was just this big box that came in, and we only finished like half of it because the slices were huge. And then the wings they're all right, and the garlic knots and the french fries are all right, but the pizza was good. So I know I left a little earlier on Sunday, so I wonder if Billy or Joel actually finished it off. But so that was pretty much cool. But going back to the list, this is again Tord's list, and only the 3 cards I added were the Miss Energy, the TM Devo, and the Switch. And then what I took out was 1 Turo. The 1 Turo felt nice against my matchups against Stall and Control. And then, the Buddy Puffing, having 3 was all right. Were there times I could use 4? Sure, but I was okay with the Ultra Ball either way, or a Gasping Draw. But overall, the list felt pretty good for me. Okay, so let's get into my matchups and who I played against and what I played against in my rounds. So let's get that up. So you can see I went 5-2-2, which put me pretty much getting me 20 points. So not too bad for going 5-2-2. And let's just talk about what I played and who I played. You can see in the image below my matches, my win, my loss, my ties. So round one, I went against Patrick McFarlane. Should have asked him if he was related to the Farlands from Family Guy, but you know, that was just, I think that was just been too weird. A dad joke right there. So, but Patrick was a pretty good guy. He was running the Chimpal. And of course, round one, a little disappointed that I get a loss. He did 2-0 me, but in game one, pretty much, he got set up pretty nicely. I didn't get set up pretty nicely, and I was behind. So, you know, pretty much in those two matches against Patrick and the Chimpal, just pretty much got set up nicely. And what I was trying to do, since I don't run the my S-Pick was the Prime Catcher, my goal was just trying to target the Bax Calibers, because I feel like you can win the prize Wraith with the Max Belt, because you're hitting that extra damage from the 180 to a Chimpal. But of course, that's kind of tough because they'll never put the Chimpal unless they need it to go for the attack. So, you know, there was times I wish I had the Max Belt because, you know, he kind of left the Chimpal there in the active for me to knock out, but I guess he just kind of figured I had the Prime Catcher, so he made a good read there. But overall, I was just hitting with Charmanders, chipping it away for 30 damage until I can knock out the Chimpal, force him to 7th price game. But pretty much, he just got set up, and then he won the race. I will tell you this, his Pokestops were pretty clutch. He had a nice deck, however, everything was gold, of course. But the Pokestops really helped him out. I think out of the first Pokestop was kind of bad. He got rid of a Chimpal and an Arita, but after that, every Pokestop, I kid you not when I told Puff and some of the Pocket guys, every Pokestop was a Nest Ball, a Superior Energy Retrieval, and either another Nest Ball or an Energy Retrieval, or in this case, a Cansey Cologne. So every single Pokestop for him, except for the first Pokestop, because he mentioned it, like he just popped off and got an item card. So, and this was after I knocked out his Chimpal. So I knew, okay, here comes the knockout, you know. And you know, the Roxanne and the Iono, I did my best to hand disrupt, but he had Bib set up, so it was just a matter of getting his resources back in. And then, of course, so game one, he kind of took it, and I kept him honest pretty much, just made sure he had it, and he did. Game two was a much closer match, and pretty much it came down to, did he have the resources at the end? But of course, Bibs did it for him, and we were both down to 2 prices. I Roxanned him, but again, all he had to do was mill or thin out his hand, and then Bibs did the rest, especially towards late game. I will tell you that I tried to do a Devo play against him, but when I did that, I mean, the guy was running Arctic Backs. I was telling Billy was telling me, why don't you just Devo him? Because he knew I run Devo. And I told Billy, well, he runs an Arctic Backs. And Arctic Backs is the stage 1 of Frigibacks. So we're talking about Desperado here, Patrick. So, you know, when I did that, you know, he... you know, from his Bax Caliber, he rare candy again, and then he put the Arctic Bax, because I guess he figured, well, that's his only one he has in that game. I didn't reveal game 1, game 2, I had to use it. I got a chance to use it, so yeah. Yeah, Arctic Bax, who knew about that? I mean, we played Charmeleon, right, as our players, but I guess Chimpowers are like, me too, let me put that Arctic Bax. So, yeah, so GG's to Patrick, and pretty cool guy overall. I just told him that, hey man, it was just round 1, you know, and anytime you lose round 1, it doesn't mean you go into a panic crisis, you know. I mean, you can see that round 1, round 2, I lost and I tied. So, but yeah, round 1 took the loss, and, you know, is what it is. So I just had to climb up from there. So round 2, my opponent was a Waludo, and pretty much that deck was Block Snorlax, and I was very fortunate that I had the Turo and the Team Yell Chair in that list and the switch, because it really paid off. Game 1, he took game 1 simply because I had 3 Fire Energy prized, and so he got 2 heads on the hammers on me. And yeah, I mean, after that, like, I kind of played it a little bit longer just to see what were her outs, what was his out, sorry. And so yeah, after that, I conceded the game. And just a word to the wise, if you know your outs and you know your deck, and you know, and you already searched your deck, it's definitely wise to go to the next game so that way you can serve time. In this case, if I didn't concede and dragged it out, I probably would have lost because he won game 1. And some of the rules is when it comes to Swiss, if your opponent or whoever takes the first game and time is called and game 2 is not complete, then the winner goes to whoever wins game 1. So because I conceded as early as possible, we had a long grindy game 2 with Block Snorlax. Usually those matches are going to happen with Zard. So I took that win, and pretty much I had to play conservatively. Team Yellowchair came in clutch because I put 2 Boss's Orders and 1 Turo back in, so that way I was able to. I did start with Radiant Zard in game 2, so that was a little rough, but I was able to Turo the Zard and then Ultra Ball it away, so it'll never come back. I didn't think he was going to run a Mantine, and he didn't. Of course, nobody was right, but you never know, right? So, and one thing I noticed about Iwalido's build was that you can tell he went 5-2-2, so the man knew what he was doing. But what I noticed about his build was he never really played a penny. It seemed like either he didn't have a chance to use it, but he played a lot of Pokegear, so either he didn't have a chance to use it or he made that decision to not use it in his deck. Because game 1 and game 2, he really didn't use a penny against me. He played more of a heavy Eerie set and a more the sisters, you know, that digs the 5 cards. So once I realized that, I just started trying to take KOs with Boss's Orders, and then forced him to make the Mimikyu the last Pokemon that he had against me. So I had Charmeleon set up ready to go. But, you know, I played it smart, and I just pretty much grinded it out in game 2, and I was able to take the win. I was able to start with a Charmander, so once I rare Candy, it was just a pretty much, he had Erica, of course, and he missed some Ericas. But the one thing I will talk about, and I talked to one of the judges about it, was the one thing I didn't like about it, and maybe he got burned before, but anytime he played Eerie against me, I was showing my hand, right? So like, for example, like this, and I was showing my hand, and you know, he had a chance to grab it, but what he didn't do is he didn't grab my hand. He would like just kind of feel each card. It was kind of weird. I don't know, like almost like if I was hiding cards for him. So I don't know if he's gotten burned before by players. You know, I get it. It is a competition, right? But you know, I eventually it kind of got kind of annoying, and so I just told him straight up, "Hey man, I'm not hiding any cards. Like, take the cards," you know. But he was just kind of like, and he laughed a little bit, but I knew like, hey man, like, so I don't know. I know he wasn't milling the clock, and just the case what I got told by the judges, you know, because I didn't call for a judge. I just asked because he can do that. It's fine. But what he was doing, that the only thing that in the rules that say about holding cards is that, you know, unless they're like damaging your cards, because, you know, sometimes you play nice cards like this or whatnot, unless they're damaging cards, you really can't, there's really much the judge can't do. So I didn't really care for it, but it was just kind of like, I don't know if he was trying to slow roll me or checking if I was hiding cards for him. I mean, he was welcome to take my cards, but for the future, I'm just gonna pretty much lay him down on the floor and on the mat, and hey, you pick. So that's pretty much, that was probably the only sus thing. And I get it, you know, we're trying to all win the 10K, right? But again, this is round 2, so yeah. So yeah, with that being said, I took the tie with Block Snorlax, and I was okay with it. Once we finished game 2, I took the last prize. I had the exact 2 outs I needed, which was the boss and the boss and I want to say the boss and the switch. Yeah, the boss and the switch. I had the 2 outs. You know, we finished and time was called, so we couldn't finish it. We couldn't start a game 3, which I would have been okay with, because taking a tie, I wish I could have played game 3, because maybe I could have gone a donk on him or something, right? You never know. But yeah, so just took the tie, and so I'm sitting at 0-1-1. Round 3, played against Matthew, and Matthew was pretty much a Pokedad, pretty cool guy, ran pretty much towards list with Zard, and in short, he just never got set up both game 1 and game 2, and I just kind of controlled the board, you know. He didn't really get set up, and so anytime, once he put a Charmander, I was already set up, and just boss, knock it out, boss, and you know, game 2, he had bad pricing as well, but overall, he just couldn't set up both games, so but GG's to Matthew. Cool guy overall. He had a pretty cool mat. If you're a Pink Floyd fan, he had a mat where he had the Eevee evolutions. You know, the prison of the rainbow. So he had the Eevee evolutions on one side with the colors, and then the Eevee on the other side for the. It's one of the album covers for Pink Floyd. So that was pretty cool to see that. The Dark Side of the Moon. Game props for it, and you know, just another dad joke because he had said like, "Wow, few people know about this, so that makes you old too." And I was like, "Yep, pretty much." But it is what it is. Okay, so going to round 4, I played against. So far round 1 it was Chimpao, Block Snorlax, and then round 3 was Zard Mirror. Round 4 was against John Brewer, and John Brewer was rocking the Ancient Box deck. So I like that matchup. I know some people were wondering how's that matchup against Zard, but I like that matchup because they really don't have recovery at the end once you Roxanne them or Iono them. However, if they do get to the end of their deck and they sequence it correctly and their deck's very thin, it really is kind of 50-50 because whatever they need at the end, especially if it's a Roaring Moon EX, you know, they can get set up if they plan or sequence it correctly. So it still has a okay matchup, but it's still favored in Zard. I know before the tournament, some people, including Joel and all that, were like, okay, shouldn't it be favored in Roaring Moon or the Ancient Box? But yeah, so Miss Energy actually put some work. And overall, John just kind of bricked both games. Game 1, he bricked. Game 2, he had a slower start, but I was just knocking out prizes. The Lost Vacuum really put in some work because I was able to take a double KO. You know, I Lost Vacuum one of the, I want to say one of the moons, and then he brought up another one, knocked that one out. So I was able to do that nicely. And, you know, after that, I just kind of 2-0 John. However, he did have the answer. He showed me he did have the answer to the Miss Energy because he had a Tempo Sinnoh. So I'm kind of fortunate that I played 3 Roaring Moons. Out of all the Roaring Moons, I think John's build was probably the best one, at least. Well, of course, I mean, not the best, but in my pathway, he had the best build. Of course, we know the one that got second place was probably the best build you want to look at for those of you running the Ancient Box or have an interest in the deck. So, but John did have the answer for Miss that day with Tempo Sinnoh. So, didn't really see it against me, thank God. But if I did, I think it would have been a harder matchup for me because he definitely wanted to use the Roaring Moon EX on me. Okay, so round number 5, I go against Bradley, and you can tell it's a tie. And why is that a tie? Because I tied against a Ancient Box mill deck. So yeah, so game number 1, pretty much I drew poorly throughout that whole game, and we're talking about I went 7 to 10 turns of just Heat Tackle with Zard, with Charmander, because I didn't get a single. As he was milling, I was hoping to catch something for Zard. And, you know, basically he got the, he milled my deck. Well, he didn't mill, but I was on my last, 10 cards. And I realized that he was going to get it. So I conceded, went to the second game. And then that game was a little bit more grindy. I did win it, however, because he bricked. Because I let him go first and then I went second. So, but he was drawing pretty poorly too, so I took knockouts with Zard, and then he kind of prolonged the game. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to milk out the clock. He played the clock that way. If he could get time called in game 2, he would win because he took game 1. But thankfully, I took game 2, and he sequenced it pretty well because he made sure that his last Pokemon was Mimikyu. And you know, at that point, he was okay. Like he made me work for it because I had Zard and I was taking knockouts, and then probably mid game or late game, he brought out Mimikyu. The only thing that, in talking with Billy about it, he didn't really, I don't know if he just didn't have a chance to get it, but he didn't have a Defiance Vest and, Defiance Vest where it reduces damage. And I think that would have been a stronger play against my Charmeleon because a Bravia Charm, like the damage is like there and it's just a matter of time. But with a Defiance Vest, it just reduces. So he gets more turns. And like, I believe it takes like a lot of turns for me to knock it out. So I think if he had that, then I would have had a better chance. He stood a better chance to play the clock and then take the game, but I knocked out his Mimikyu like 2 or 3 turns instead of like 6 or 7 turns. So I'm not sure if he had that, but you know, in the future, if you're running a mill deck with Mimikyu, that Defiance Vest is pretty good against the smaller Pokemon, especially against Zard. So FYI. But yeah, game 2, I just took it, and again, same thing like a Wilder with a Block Snorlax, you know, except for the mill. We didn't have time to do a game 3, so we just called it a day. So I'm sitting at 2 2-1-2 pretty much, you know. And then round number 6, I went against Matt, and then of course for those of you that are new to the regional scene, if you see your table number and it's crossed out and you see V 21 or V, usually what that means is it's static seating. What that means is that the player is staying in the same seat. So, you know, shout out to Day 2 events also. If you ever want to go to a Pokemon Regionals, and this is to anyone new or that wants to get into the competitive scene, please go to an event. If it's San Antonio, fine, but San Antonio is run by Day 2 events anyways. Please go to a Pokemon Regional that's run by Day 2 events. Props to them, because this tournament finished, it was 9 rounds, no lunch for day 1, but this tournament finished like 7 o'clock. Like at 7 o'clock, you know, and they ran pretty well. Like, even though there was a lot of hiccups too, it ran pretty fast, and you know, and also the players were playing well. Most of the players were playing pretty fast, you know, except for there's some that are gonna play a little slow, right? And understandable, but yeah. So round 6, you know, I went to VIP 21 and I played against Matt, and I played against a Future Box. And unfortunately, against that Future Box, I just had some very bad pricing in both those games, because what I needed at that particular window to take a knockout against the Iron Hands, I didn't have it. So game 1, I lost tempo because I had an opportunity to Arvin get the return knockout against Iron Hands with my catcher and Defiance Band, because he was ahead of prizes. But unfortunately, you know, my Arvins were priced. I was just like, really? Like, so I couldn't do that, and then like it just snowballed into like eventually, you know, I attacked him with Zards, but you know, against a Future Box, they put the Miraidon up, and pretty much they ain't gonna move it until you return the KO. So you either have to put damage on the Iron Hands, and you definitely want to make sure you have Vacuum to get rid of the baton. But I didn't really get a chance to use the baton in the Vacuum. And but yeah, so game 1 I didn't really have the Arvins to answer, and then game 2 I just bricked really bad, and then I also prized the Luminion and the 4 Seal Stones, so I couldn't really recover. So in that game I kind of had to abandon the Bibs and the Pidgey setup. So you got to understand that when you play Zard, like early game, if you can get it set up really nicely and you have Pidgeot, then you're just chilling because you get what you need. But against a Future Box that's pretty aggro, especially early game, like, you know, you either have to, I was only set up to where I had 1 Charmander, 1 Pidgey, you know, or, you know, I didn't have really all the cards. So this is where, you know, not having that 4th buddy kind of punished me. So like I said, if I could take it back, I'd probably take out the TM and put in the 4th buddy, but it is what it is. And so game 2, I just kind of went all in with both Zards, but you know, you're just kind of playing into Future Box's sequencing, because all they're going to do is hit, or hit with Iron Hands first, and as long as they hit you first, then they'll get those free prizes. So it was just, okay, I had to do this, but I kept them honest pretty much. But you know, and I didn't really have a chance to use the Vacuum to get rid of the baton, because you know, I didn't have enough. It was either one or the other kind of scenarios. So, but pretty much GG's to Matt, and so now I'm sitting at 2-2-2 pretty much, and out of contention, because you can't have 2 ties and 2 losses. You can have 1 loss and 2 ties, or you can have two losses and 1 tie, but you can't have that. So pretty much getting out of day 2 at this point, after the loss in round 6, I was just playing for points. So after that, round 7, I play against Zeus. Zeus was playing a very interesting build. He was playing a Goldingo deck, but I think it was kind of his own brew or spice, because it really bricked really bad for him. He was running Goldingo, Palkia, and I guess he was also running, oh my god, wow, I just blanked out there. Raikou, yeah, Raikou V. So he had Raikou V, he had Goldingo, he had Palkia. It was just, I think it was very, like, I'm not sure about the build, but it was just meshed up into everything. So pretty much it was another 2-prizer deck, and Zard just took care of that, because, you know, Raikou's 200 HP, so, you know, when he killed my BB Charmander, I was like, okay, return KO. He bricked, of course, but overall, cool guy. Zeus was cool overall, but I just kind of took the dub 2-0 there. There was one play that he went all in with the Palkia. I think he was trying to Greninja me with the Palkia, but I read that pretty well, and I just killed the Palkia V before he could evolve, and he was kind of like, oh man, you saw what I did there, like, or you knew that it was coming. Like, yeah, pretty much, you know, because I prized Manaphy, so I made sure I put 3 Charmanders, so I was able to race the or kill the Palkia before it happens. So yeah, so good old Charmander chipping damage on the Palkia V and then kind of like finishing off. So but yeah, pretty much round 7 just 2-0 to Goldingo deck. Round 8. I played against Brad Stevens, and the only thing I remember about that, it was another Roaring Moon Ancient Box build. But I will tell you this, and I get it, but you know, to those of you that are new to the scene of Pokemon regionals and whatnot, I know you're going to hear a lot of people, especially towards the end, talk about Gentleman's Agreement. And I'll be honest with you, Gentleman's Agreement is kind of like where, like, if both of you win, if one of you wins game 1 and then the other wins game 2, and then there's not enough time for game 3, the Gentleman's Agreement is whoever, you know, you can do it 2 ways of whoever has the best board state, and then whoever has, or you can do it however has the most prizes. But again, it's called Gentleman's Agreement for a reason, because, you know, it doesn't have to be honored, which is exactly my point. You know, I heard a lot of people, you know, in talking about Gentleman's Agreement, and honestly, I think that only needs to be done maybe if you're shooting for top 8, you know. But as far as like, and then Billy made a really good point, is that, you know, people, I guess what I'm trying to say, people are misusing Gentleman's Agreement. Like, I think people play fast enough that you don't need it, at least in my opinion, you know. We can talk about that later. That's another topic on its own. But I just felt like a lot of people were kind of abusing the Gentleman's Agreement, because a lot of people were not going to honor it. I mean, you say at the beginning, but once you start losing, are you really going to honor it? You know, and a lot of people, I know it happened to Victor Limon. Victor was in the Gentleman's Agreement, and the guy didn't honor it. He kind of changed his mind, but kind of said it very politically speaking. So, but yeah, so round 8, Brad was just like, you want to do Gentleman's Agreement? And I said, well, I kind of told him, I think we'll play fast enough. You know, but you know, I just kind of say like, no, thank you, pretty much. So we played, and again, another favorable matchup, because it was Ancient Box and with the Roaring Moon EX, and you know, I kind of just 2-0'd him. You know, fatigue was kicking in on him, because he was kind of like making some weird plays, and he was just kind of, I think for 5 seconds he kind of stood at his hand, and you know, I think he was in a daze. But you know, he was kind of tired. I saw the fatigue kick in, so luckily he didn't play slow, but he was, you can tell he was like in the zone, but just like out. So but thankfully I 2-0'd him. It's just one of those games where against Ancient Box with Zard, as long as you hand disrupt them and they don't get to the end of their deck, then like they're just kind of like, they can't do much. And you know, and he was running the Dunsparce, so Dunsparce is pretty cool, but you know, again, you know, game 2 is much closer, but in the end, because I hand disrupted him, especially Roxandom, he didn't really, you really can't do much, you know. And of course I targeted, when you go against the Roaring Moon deck, yes, you know, you're gonna get hit by Roaring Moons either way, but if you have a chance, go after the Dunsparce, because that's their draw power. So if you go for the Dunsparce, it's the same thing against Bibs. You know, Lost Box players, you know, they'll tell you that Lost Box players, they'll put all 12 damage if they can on Bibarel, you know, or whatnot. But always go for their draw power. You know, I know against Zard players, they're always going to target your Pidgeots, because without Pidgeot, you really can't get much. And so, you know, so against the Ancient Box deck, I went after the baby Dunsparce evolutions, and the Dunsparce pretty much, and just took them out. And so instead of him drawing 6 cards or 9 cards, he only drew 3, and that was it. So, but yeah, so GG's to Brad, and you know, on to round 9. So round 9, interesting, because you know, I went against Ugo, and Ugo had a better build. I know John did, but well, let me rephrase that. John had the better build, but we really couldn't get a good game out of it. But Ugo probably was the harder player out of all of them, because he had a chance to play the game against me. And so what I mean by that is game 1, I won game 1 because he bricked. I chose to go second. So against a Ancient Box, it's really tough for them to go first, because they're just like draw pass. They really rely on using supporters, kind of like Zard. Zard, at least if we can draw into our Rotom B or our Buddy Poffins, we're just chilling, right? But for Ancient Box players, they just kind of sit there, attach pass, and they can't do much. So they like to go second. So game 1, he bricked really hard, and you know, being round 9, he was showing a little emotion, because when things didn't go his way, he was just like, go, you know, kind of just very serious. And I was like, okay. you know, and so game 1 wasn't really a match, but game 2, he did play his deck well enough to take a game because like I said, against an ancient box, they want to get to the end of the deck. So he was just Earth and Vessel his energies, and then he had Greninja. So he was just pitching cards left and right and going through his deck until the very end. He kept up with the prize race, and so at the very end, pretty much no matter what I did to hand disrupt him, he had all the outs, you know, the Dark Patches and the Roaring Moon EX to take out my last Pokemon or my last Charizard. So he accomplished what he needed to do at the end, and you know, we had a game 3. So game 3, again, I chose to go second, and game 1, and then he bricked, and then pretty much he got so behind that I just kind of controlled it with Pidgeot by you know, having 2 bosses is great. So it's like, okay, boss Dunsparce, boss Greninja, pretty much boss all his draw power until he was just kind of stuck. And yeah, so I took game 3 pretty much. So overall, you know, GG's to Ugo. Pretty nice guy overall. You know, again, we all have that competitive face, the poker face, but after the game was done, GG's. You know, I kind of told him, hey, like, pretty good player on that. What a way to play it. Of course, now Ancient Box is a runner-up in Orlando Regionals, so we'll see people kind of adapting to that list and making changes to whatnot. So overall, that's my Orlando run for going 5-2-2. I know Billy also went 5-2-2 as well. And then, you know, shout out to some of the San Antonio guys for making day 2. I know Seth Ramos made day 2. I know, I believe Seth made it. And man, I'm blanking on his name, but he's going to get so mad at me. So yeah, let me just look it up real quick. Where is it? Yeah, and I had the name, but it is what it is, right? I'm looking it up real quick. Y'all can bear with me, right? It's like, oh. And then when you want everything to work, it's like not working, right? All right, here we go. Yeah, Alex Espinosa. There we go. Yeah, so I apologize, Alex, but I wanted to give you that shout out. So yeah, shout out to Alex Espinosa. Shout out to Seth Ramos. And then shout out to our own RGV, Cesar Bettis, for making day 2 from the pocket for Lugia. So special shout out to him. So speaking of that, my next video will be based on doing a exclusive interview with Cesar. That will be uploaded Thursday and Friday. And of course, last thing I'll say is this weekend we have our RGB Cups at Kaboom and Stronghold. Stronghold's on Saturday and Kaboom is on Sunday. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and support me. Comment, like below, subscribe, spread the word. And I hope you enjoyed this report for KG going 5-2-2 at Orlando Regionals. And like I said, thanks for watching. Take care. And this is KG signing off. See ya.